welcome to episode number 141 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL, The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio. Wherever you get your podcasts is where you're listening to this right now, be it Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Podcasts. If you're that guy, I appreciate you just as much as everybody else. My name is Jason Finelli. I don't know if I said that already because I have very bad short-term memory, but here I am, episode number 141, after a long night for the gaming industry, both in good and bad ways. I am, of course, talking about the Game Awards 2023. They kicked off last night with all of the announcements and blink and you'll miss it awards and all that stuff that we love so much and hate so much about this little event of ours, and I'm going to spend the next good amount of time talking about it because there is a lot to unpack. I had planned on doing this right after the show ended. Last night, right after the show kicked off the air, I signed off of Twitch after streaming the whole thing for 4 hours and dancing around to the song you're hearing right now and all that other stuff. But I thought maybe I would wait. I'm going to wait until the next day. I'm going to sleep on it, and I'm going to see how I feel in the morning. And honestly, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I took that approach as the song wraps up here. I love this song so much. It's just so good. Old Gods of Asgard, a.k.a. Poets of the Fall. They're just very good. Anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked. When I signed off of my stream last night, and you can go watch it. You can go watch. The whole thing's archived on Twitch. I'm not going to get rid of it. I may try and download it for posterity just in case they delete it for me. But the whole thing's there, and I was happy with what we saw. I was happy with the games that were announced. I was happy with the things that went on, like the musical number I talked about. But then when I went back and watched that outro again, I didn't talk about the awards once. I focused so much on what was announced. I basically went into E3 mode, right? I went into post E3 press conference mode where I talked about the things we learned about that are coming in the future rather than the games that were being honored on the night. And that right there is a microcosm of the entire experience. Now, the next thing you say is, well, how is that different than any other year at the Game Awards? And you're right. It has always had that issue. What once was touted as a feature, being able to blend the announcements that the industry's fans love with the celebration of the industry as a whole, has now gotten blurred to being more of a detriment. It just needs to find more of a balance. But where in other years it was like easy to pass off, it was a little bit easier to, for lack of better term, ignore. This year it was 100,000% on display. And now that I have come into my own after sleeping on it, we're going to get into that. But first things first, I want to start with the games that were announced to get them out of the way. I want to get it out of my system. I know I just said that I'm basically going to take the same timeline in this podcast episode that I took in my brain last night. So we'll talk about some of the things I'm most excited about. We're going to talk about the rest of the show after this. And I don't think I'm going to do segments in this one. I know I normally, say stick around or what have you. I think I'm just going to run straight through. No commercial breaks today. I don't think this one's getting put on the what's the word I'm looking for? The radio. That's what it's called. I don't think this one's getting radio play this week. This is just me. I'm going to go off for 45 minutes. I'm not going to put any ads on it. So, you'll have ads at the beginning, ads at the end, nothing in between. We're just going to run through this, and I'm going to talk about what I'm feeling right now this afternoon, 1 p.m. on Friday, December 8th, the day after the Game Awards kicked off. So let's go through some of the things that I liked to see. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons getting remade or brought back to modern consoles. That's really cool. Game came out in 2013. Novel idea of being a sort of puzzle platformer sort of game where you control two people at the same time, with one half of the controller being one brother and one half of the controller being the other. Made by Josef Fares, who also made It Takes Two and a couple other games. Very, very cool game. Happy to see that get some time back in the spotlight. Pony Island 2 Panda Circus only means anything if you played Inscription. If you haven't played Inscription, you should do so. That's a fun game as well. Loudest pop of the night for me, or second loudest pop of the night for me, went to The Rise of the Golden Idol, because the case of the Golden Idol is one of my favorite games ever. It is a very well done puzzle game, really makes you think, and it's one that I feel needs to be played by everyone. It's on most consoles right now, I believe. And it's at least on Switch and PC. So if you have a Switch or a PC, you can play it there. So go check that out. That's really cool and worth your time. Harmonium, the musical, was really cool. It's a musical game, but made with the deaf in mind. So we may be hearing things, hearing the words that are being said, but it's all they're all being signed and everything's subtitled. Just a really novel idea there as well. Finji, who most recently made Tunic, is back with Usual June. That was a cool trailer. Motion Twin, the Dead Cell studio, announced their next game, Windblown. That was pretty awesome as well. Biggest pop of the night probably went to God of War Ragnarok's Valhalla update, the new free-to-download roguelike game from Sony Santa Monica inside God of War Ragnarok. Play as Kratos, go through this some sort of like mysterious island with this temple that you just fight monsters over and over again in a roguelite setting. That should be cool. Hellblade 2 looked really great. The new game from House, who made Untitled Goose Game, Big Walk, looked very, very strange. Kids love that trailer, as I thought they would. As did the Moon Studios game, No Rest for the Wicked. Very stark departure from Ori, but I am excited for that. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which is basically just the next Tenkaichi game. I'm very excited to see that franchise, spin-off of Dragon Ball come back. Casting of Frank Stone, which is a horror game collaboration between the Dead by Daylight studio and the Until Dawn / The Quarry studio, plus the Bandai Namco series. Man of Medan is one of them. I can never remember the actual name of the full series. Visions of Mana, a brand new game in the Mana franchise. Did not see that coming. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth trailer was fantastic. Marvel's Blade, probably the biggest announcement of the night, that Arcane is making a Blade game. That's kind of cool. Not free, but paid DLC for Final Fantasy 16. First pack out last night. Second pack coming in spring 2024. Monster Hunter Wilds ending the show. Also a very cool very cool announcement as well. So yeah, there were some very cool games to get excited about. Some with 2024 release dates, some with 2025 release dates, which is a little disheartening. So 2025 already has Monster Hunter and Grand Theft Auto in it. That's pretty impressive. And we're a year away. Lord knows what's going to be announced in the next couple of months for that stuff. But yeah, the announcements are great. I don't want to take away from the things that were announced, the things that were presented. The games look fun. I am excited to learn more about them. For the games that may be a little closer to their release date, I am excited to play them. But this is an award show about the past year, 2023, right? So meaning that they should be spending most of their time devoted to honoring those shows, at least honoring those games, at least in the way that like the people want the Game Awards to be like the Oscars, right? They want it to be that. They want it to be this, celebration of the industry with awards mixed in. And unfortunately, that has never been where the Game Awards has landed, right? This is more of a pop culture oriented award, as exemplified by Anthony Mackie and Timothée Chalamet for some reason, and stuff, and people like that coming to present awards. Now, Anthony Mackie makes sense. He's in the Twisted Metal game. Twisted Metal is based on a video game. Got it. The cast of Fallout, same thing. Makes sense that they're there. Timothée Chalamet, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, yeah, he used to stream video games, great, but why is he here now? And furthermore, he could not have seemed more disinterested to be there. But that's neither here nor there. At least he introduced and presented an award, right? He was the Game of the Year guy. So he got to bring the orchestra on stage. He got to give the Game of the Year award to the winner, stuff like that. that's neither here nor there. My big issue is the lack of attention devoted to the winners of these awards. This is a common critique. It is one that we have talked about with this show for years, and we talked about it, I believe, when it was the Spike Video Game Awards in the early 2010s, and then it went away for a while, and then it came back in 2014 in its current form, and here we stand. So this was the 10th Game Awards. Next year is the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards. So it's now a decade in, and we're still talking about it being more of a marketing presentation oriented event than it is a celebration or award show. And that sucks, frankly, because this is easily the most visible, the most viewed, the award show with the highest reach in the entire industry. There are others, the BAFTAs, the Golden Joysticks, the AIAS, or the DICE Awards, which I think are the same thing. I could be wrong. The Spawnies, run by Khalif Adams, which is a great up-and-coming award show there as well. These all exist, and they all figure out a way to honor the award winners along with, if there are any announcements or whatever going on, and creating that balance. Here, that seesaw went way too much in the direction of trailers, to the point where winners of awards, this is the worst part, and if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying anything new right now. Winners of these awards were given 30 seconds for speeches if they were one of the ones selected for speeches. At one moment, they did a bunch of rapid-fire awards at once, including some high, major categories. Best Indie for Sea of Stars, Best RPG for Baldur's Gate, I guess. Just blown through with no care. What is the point, right? Kotaku wrote a great article this morning. Zach Swyson wrote a great headline. It's time for the Game Awards to just become the winter E3 it wants to be. You want to give awards, you want to honor people, fine. But just call yourself what it is. Stop with this, the best form of entertainment, as somebody pointed out in the GameSpot Slack today. Stop with that. There is no best form of entertainment. The best form of entertainment is whatever entertains you. There is no... It's somebody... there's a tweet that I read that said, events like last night make it seem like the gaming industry is a very successful little brother who's trying to measure up to the older brother who was more popular in high school. And that is so right. It's so right. It's not even funny. And in some moments, I kind of think it's cool to have like Anthony Mackie there and Al Pacino last year and people like that. But are the Muppets necessary? And I love the Muppets. This is my time of year. This is the Muppets time of year for me. Muppet Family Christmas, one of my favorite Christmas shows of all time. Was Gonzo needed? Did I need to hear Gonzo thirst about chickens for 6 minutes or whatever it ended up being? Bring out some Alan Wake corkboard, never ever reference Alan Wake. I mean, make the Alan Wake joke. You're making an Alan Wake corkboard. Make the joke. No, we're just talking about how much he really wants to do unspeakable things to that chicken or chicken in general. It's very weird. It's very... I don't know. It's hard to really get into. The more I think about it, the more problems I have. I'm just going to paint a couple of situations here that people have talked about that are really, really bad. And of course, you can make your own judgments. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But if you just listen to what I'm saying and see if it at least makes any sense to you. So first, somebody on Twitter, Haley Elise, at Haley Elise on Twitter, because I refuse to call it what it's called. She went through, or they went through, I don't want to assume, they went through and broke down by timing 5 different categories for these award shows. Now, this only counts for the core Game Award show. It does not include the however many awards and I think a dozen reveals that happened in the opening act, as they call it, from 7:30 to 8 o'clock Eastern time. This is just 8 to 11. Trailers and advertisements were given 1 hour and 28 minutes. That is half of the runtime. 88 out of 180 minutes were spent on trailers and advertisements, which is fine, but there are other areas that are sorely lacking, and we'll get to that. Musical numbers at 13 and a half minutes, that's fine. They had 2, right? Maybe 3. They had Old Gods of Asgard. They had the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth one. I think that might be it. That's fine. That's perfect for a 3-hour show. 1 or 2 songs to mix things up, good. Oscars does the same thing if you want to keep making that comparison. They do the same thing for all their best music. Whatever. I'm in. That's fine with me. Presenters of the awards, the people presenting the awards, got almost triple the amount of time as people to give speeches who won them. 26 and a half minutes for award presenters, 10 minutes for the speeches of the winners. That is bogus. That to me is completely backwards. Now, some of that may have been extended by Anthony Mackie, who was very upset with the crowd for yelling at him, or very drunk, or very both. Yelling at the crowd to stop talking and how much he loved them. He kind of padded his time there, whatever. Christopher Judge, I think, padded it on purpose, making fun of Call of Duty because of his speech last year, which kept going on and on and on. It's like an inside joke, whatever. And that started the show. That was a great icebreaker to start the show. Bring out Christopher Judge, make fun of him, play him off. But also, as I'm just now realizing, it kind of set the stage for the entire night because he starts talking and they immediately turn on the playoff music, which for him is a joke. But then when they did it to everybody else, when they weren't supposed to, it wasn't a joke anymore. There is one award in particular. It's either accessibility, Games for Impact. I have to go look where the acceptors of the award, the 2 people who accept the award, it's a man and a woman. And they go up, and the man gives his speech, and he says, whatever he wants to say, he says thank you. The woman walks up to the mic to get her turn, and bam, they play the playoff music. Full bore, full blast, boom, they're playing them off as if they assumed she had nothing to say. Soon as that happened, and I go back to my my live stream, I immediately was like, oh no, that's not good. You let them both speak. That didn't happen again for the rest of the show. But it happened to them. I have to find the specific award that happened to, and I will do that while we're talking here. But that was just not a good look at all. And I am genuinely curious how that was able to happen. But then you have the voice actor for Astarion, who won the best performance category for Baldur's Gate, giving a very moving speech. To Neil Newbon is his name, giving a very moving speech about how his performance helped people who were suffering from abuse, and this just very wonderful, wonderful thing, and they're playing him off. Give him time. Let him soak in that moment. He had, 30 seconds? 40 seconds before that screen that has become the lasting image of the Game Awards, please wrap it up, was being shown to him. And that was the first award. To bookend the show, the last award, Game of the Year, also for Baldur's Gate, the head of the studio, in a suit of armor, by the way, great touch, comes up and starts giving his speech and talking about members of the team who have died, one as recently as a month ago, and they're playing him off again. It's the end of the show. There should be no time limit for the Game of the Year speech. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? I understand. I mean, I can sympathize or understand if in the beginning of the show, the the smaller categories get less time to speak. Fine. That makes perfect sense to me. but not game of the year, right? And even then, the smaller categories deserve longer than 30 seconds before they're being played off with a patronizing, please wrap it up. Who picked that? Please wrap it up. You could have written anything. You could have written overtime. You could have written, something else like just have the zeros there flashing. That would have been enough. Please wrap it up. What the hell, man? Somebody put on Twitter, and this is right. I don't remember exactly who wrote it. I want to say Javier Cordero was the name. I got to find that tweet. I want to make sure I get that attribution correct as well. That said, if I'm accepting an award for Game of the Year on a project I spent blood, sweat, and tears on, and I'm talking about people on my team who have died while making these games, and you're playing me off, I'm going to be pissed. And he's right. There's no excuse for that. And then, which is where their weird practices got in their own way, that man, the head of Baldur's Gate 3, when he was accepting his award for Game of the Year, was supposed to announce that the Xbox version shadow dropped. The Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3 was available on Xbox right then and there for the first time. They didn't give him the time to do that. Now, he says he forgot. He says he was, he wasn't thinking. He was in the moment. But if he's not played off after 30 seconds of accepting an award or giving a speech for Game of the Year, maybe he remembers that particular tidbit. Huh? I mean, that just makes sense. You gave more time on the stage to that dope from Gamescom who rushed the stage looking for GTA 6, who I hope is still rotting in the gulag. Because they had more security last night, but I'm not getting onto that. Your haste and your lack of focus on the winners kept you from a pretty big announcement, which is your bread and butter anyway, right? You spent half the show on trailers and stuff like that. And as I have been saying, the social media reaction has been strong, to say the least. Jeff Grubb over there at Giant Bomb says, I don't want to say we shouldn't criticize the Game Awards. We should. I just think maybe it's more useful to question the whole importance in the first place. Some guy just decided to hand out trophies. We don't have to take it as seriously as default. That is a very good point that he made there. I think that there is something something to be said about how this guy just, decided he wanted to do this. Now, granted, he did invest $1 million of his own money, and he clearly does care about the industry. He just has to get his priorities straight. Here it is. Javier Cordero, that's the name. If I had won Game of the Year and was dedicating the award to a member of my team who had died during development and saw the words, please wrap it up, I'd be pissed. I would too, Javier. You are absolutely right about that. Sven Vinke is his name from Larian. He was the one accepting the award. One great joke, didn't know Game Dev Award acceptance speeches were also subjected to crunch. That was a nice little dig there. Simu Liu, who came out to present himself, present an award and reveal himself in a game called Stormgate, got to talk about his broken foot longer than developers won an award tonight. That was a pretty good commentary there. Roger Clark, who was the voice, I believe is the voice of Arthur Morgan. I think I have the guy right here. He tweeted that the gaming industry has an odd complex at the moment. They're disregarding their own in place of a film industry that doesn't really care about them. They're like the more successful little brother. Here it is, still seeking validation from the big brother who was cool in high school. Yes, that's 100% true. It's a shame, right? It is a shame that the awards that we most associate with this industry have become 50% marketing and 50%, and not even 50% celebration. Let's go back to those times again, shall we? Let me find that tweet again while I'm right here. 1 hour and 28 minutes for trailers, 13 and a half minutes for musical numbers. That's the only one I'm okay with. Award presenters, 26 and a half minutes. Winner's speeches, 10 minutes. I didn't get to the other thing that really makes me upset. And that is 42 and a half minutes devoted to other. I believe Kojima is in that because he had 8 minutes with Jordan Peele and all that other stuff. I think the Warframe stuff is in there because they were talking about the Warframe drop and stuff like that. That right there is more time that should be devoted to winner speeches. There is no reason that the speeches of the people who are winning the awards should have the least amount of time. What are you doing, Jeff? Now, I did have a thought that maybe he was overreacting to Bill Clinton kid last year, right? He didn't want that egg on his face again after some kid snuck up on the stage and talked about Bill Clinton out of nowhere. Yeah, fine. That's fine. But you had the guardrails for that. You had the extra security guys at the end of the rows for that. You took care of that. You don't take care of that by limiting the time of the people who are supposed to be giving the speeches. You are punishing the wrong people. And to be honest, I don't even know where the solution is, right? I don't know. Well, clearly the answer would be less attention given to the trailers and the ads, but that's why the people tune in, right? So what needs to happen here is you can have your trailers and your reveals and all that other good stuff. You can still have that stuff, but you need to spend just as much time honoring the speeches too. I don't want to hear that people get bored if speeches are too long and people on Twitter or whatever start saying, move it along, move it along. That's because people on Twitter have no attention span, my boy. They just, as long as something is the least bit boring, they're complaining about it. It's what they do. If anyone's live tweeting this, they've already told me to move it along 15 times in 27 minutes. It's just how it works on social media, man. You need to be the one to hold up, you and your team need to be the ones to hold up hey, we need to give these people equal time. And it's gotten me wondering what a Game Awards show would look like without Jeff Keighley. Somebody else hosting. Just his team organizing everything. I don't know how hands-on he is now. He talks about going to, a studio like House and playing Big Walk or whatever that game was called from the Untitled Goose Game people. He talks about, being in the room for all these demos, but is he booking them? Or is his team booking them? Is he producing the rundown? Or is his team producing the rundown? Is this a Vince McMahon situation where a bunch of people do work and he has the final say? And I hope that's the extent of the Vince McMahon situation, if that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe we get somebody on the not on the inside. Maybe we get some of those answers. We get some of those things told to us, so we know. Maybe I don't know. All I know is something's wrong. Something's wrong, and it was very apparent last night based on the reactions of people on Twitter about the show. And what they were seeing, there is a problem here. There is a rot at the core of the Game Awards that has been festering for almost a decade. And it's time to figure out how to get rid of it and create a balance. Does it mean adding an extra hour to your show? Fine, start at 7. 6:30, 7 o'clock, 6:30 opening act, 7 o'clock start time. If you add an hour and give all of that time to the winner speeches, nobody says a word. You have 30 awards at this show. You gave 10 minutes to the winners. If you make that 70, that's what? Let's do the quick math here real quick. A little more than 2 minutes per speech? That's fine. And then you can play with it as is. You want to give Game of the Year more time than, I don't know, the Esports Awards, whatever. That's fine too. Or maybe the Esports Awards are in the pre-show, and then you do them and you give them their laurels, and then we move on because it's mostly about the actual industry, the core gaming industry, and not so much about esports. There are ways to do this. I don't think anyone would complain if that show starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time instead of 8 p.m. Eastern Time, but every single speech, every single winner of an award gets more time to give a speech. I would have loved to seen Sabotage on that stage last night for Best Indie Game. I would have loved it. Was it there? No, it wasn't. It got mentioned, it got clapped for, and then it was moved on to the next one. Sabotage deserved that time on stage. They deserved it. They didn't get it. And that to me is bogus. And I hate to do this because I look forward to this. I look forward to this from Thanksgiving. I mean, I'm always kind of on the periphery of it. It's one of my favorite events of the year and has been for years. I've been talking about going to this damn thing for 5 years. You think I would do it eventually. But I love this show. I love streaming it. I love talking about it with friends. With the absence of E3, that void has been filled to a point by this. And now I'm realizing that that's a problem. But it's not an unfixable one. There just needs to be more time given to the people winning the awards as opposed to those who want to announce the games that may be winning them in the future. It amazes me how much Alan Wake 2 is a perfect example of what's going on in this industry, in this particular industry event. Remember when Alan Wake 2 was announced in 2021? Remember how much time they got on stage to talk about the return of Alan Wake on that stage 2 years ago? Now, when it came time to win the awards, their creators got, what, a third of that time? Alan Wake might not be the best example because they also had one of the musical numbers. I understand that. But it doesn't change the fact that you spent more time on the game's announcement 2 years ago than you did on the awards that it won at the show that has awards in the title. And that, to me, is a problem. We play these games because they're made by excellent creators. And the most visible award show in the world needs to give those creators that spotlight. It needs to give the industry that spotlight. Not just the marketing committees, not just the business side, the entire industry, which brings me to my last point. There have been a lot of critiques about this show. A lot of them deserved. None of them more deserved than anybody who had anything to say about the lack of mention of layoffs. There was that wonderful letter that went out by the future class regarding acknowledgement of what's going on in Israel and Palestine. Should that have happened too? Yes. They mentioned Ukraine in 2021. They should have mentioned Palestine this year as well. I 100% agree. There were people who were going to give speeches on Palestine. They didn't win. The team, one of the people who made Goodbye Volcano High at Co-op shared his speech if they had won, and it mentions Palestine. So now, will the tinfoil hats put on, go on to say that that game didn't win because they might mention it? No, you can't say that because you didn't see a speech beforehand. You don't have to clear anything. I don't know if they have to clear it, but if they had to clear it, whatever. But that's a whole other. That's not what I want to get into. It should have happened, but that is it's a hard topic to talk about. It's a hard topic to give the gravitas that it needs. So I would have loved to have heard about it, and the fact that it wasn't there sucks. But just as importantly, if not because of the industry we're talking about, more importantly, even though it's not, I don't want to say one's more important than the other. I'm just trying to make a point here that one that definitely should have been said was the layoffs. Both of these things should have been said. Let me make that very clear. But if we had to choose one, or if you came to me and said one of these two things is definitely going to be talked about at this award show, what's it going to be? I would have chosen the layoffs. It was a huge part of this year, one of the most critically successful years in video games ever, overshadowed by nearly 10,000 layoffs in studios across the world. That, to me, is something somebody would have addressed and should have been addressed at the beginning of the show. Nope. Not a word. And my favorite part, my favorite part of this is that multiple times during the show, they panned a camera to Liana Ruppert. Nothing's wrong with Liana Ruppert. Liana Ruppert is great. Liana Ruppert was laid off. Liana Ruppert was laid off by Bungie. She was affected. And they kept finding her in the audience. And anybody who saw her would be like, oh, that's Liana. Oh, yeah, she got laid off. Oh, they're going to mention that? They never did. I don't know if the camera person knew that was that situation. I doubt it, if they were just part of the camera team. But every time they showed her, all I thought was, maybe this is an opportunity to mention something about the terrible layoffs, and this is going to remind somebody to do it when she's on the screen. No. Didn't happen. The Israel-Palestine situation sucks. The layoff situation sucks. Both of those things are very important topics that could and should have had a platform to be focused on last night. One of them even stressed by the members of the so-called future class that the Game Awards considers to be the best and brightest of the younger generation of game developers, and both were ignored. It's spineless. It's cowardice. And it shows a lack of awareness for the world around you, both internally in your little industry bubble and externally in the world at large. And it sucks. Now, and then people will tell me, why can't we just have a night to celebrate the video games? We wanted that too, and we didn't get it. Right? We got 10 minutes of 3 hours celebrating the actual winners. So spare me that crap. The Game Awards need to change. It's that simple. You want to give 3 hours of a platform to this industry, you have to do it by celebrating this industry. You want to celebrate its future, as you gave an hour and a half to last night? Fine. That's fine. Have your trailers, have your reveals. But you need to also make equal time, if not maybe more time, to the people who have already made their games and are looking to be honored after winning your awards. It makes me wonder, like I said earlier, about a show without him. What would that look like? What would the Game Awards look like if he took a year off? Just decided to do something else. Focus on Summer Games Fest and Gamescom and let his Game Awards team do that. I truly wonder what that would look like. Am I saying he's the problem? No, but he's the final decision maker. What would happen if you made somebody else the final decision maker? How would that look? It's an interesting idea. Is it going to happen? No, not next year. Not the 10th anniversary. Absolutely not. After that? No. He'll probably keep doing this as long as he wants. But I am curious what that would look like. Just once. Just once. I suggest if you want some extra reading on this subject, you go to The Verge and read Ash Parrish's, former guest of Cheesesteaks and Controllers. Read her excellent piece on The Verge called, let me get the name of it for you. I want to make sure I get it right. Where is it? She posted it right after the show. She was on it. It is called Jeff Keighley Let Video Game Developers Down. It's flat out what it says. She says basically what kind of she goes into better detail on what I was saying earlier. The numbers vary. Estimates say anywhere between 6,000 and 7,000 workers lost their jobs this year. No studio or no level of studio size or success has been spared, and those who have been let go are now forced to contend for an ever-dwindling number of open job prospects. And then she goes on to talk about how this platform should have been used to address that, and it didn't. Excellent writing by Ash Parrish. Highly recommend you go to The Verge and check that out. Also, check out the Zach Zweisen article from Kotaku. The Game Awards needs to drop the act and just become Winter E3. Props to whoever chose the cover image for that one. That is a very, very interesting place to do that. And, you know, I I just wish the award show would be better. Like, I'm sitting here right now, as I'm saying these words, watching a video of the Dublin office of Larian Studios at, what's this, 11 o'clock Eastern, so it's 4 or 5 in the morning for them, right? Watching the Game of the Year announcement. And as soon as they say Baldur's Gate 3 on that stage, that studio turns into the World Series champions locker room. There's champagne spraying everywhere. They're screaming. Listen to this. That's amazing. And listen to them. Go look for it. At Kira Cosmo on Twitter has this there. She's associate writing producer for Larian. Listen to that joy. Why am I watching this on Twitter and not on the stage of the Game Awards? Look at them. Listen to them. Incredible. That's what the Game Awards needs more of. The cheers of those who won the awards, and not just the cheers from fans excited to see all the new stuff that the award winners won't get enough time to talk about when they win the awards in Game Awards ceremonies of the future. And that is episode number 141 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, what have you. If you want to discuss this more, I am at Big Man Finelli on all of the socials. Feel free to do that. This was a tough one. Like I said, I love the Game Awards. I love watching them. I love being a part of it. One of these years I will actually go, and maybe I'll drag my wife with me. But I can love a thing and also say that it needs fundamental changes at its core. And those changes were never more apparent than they were last night by the time that show had ended. Hopefully next year, for the 10th anniversary, they do better than the actual 10th edition. As I always say at the end of the episode, if you're hearing these words, that means you have reached the end, and I am ever so grateful and appreciative that you have done so. I hope you were educated. I hope you were entertained. Again, I am more than willing to discuss further on social media. I might try and do some more live streaming now. You can come into my chat at jfan64 and talk to me there. Ultimately, I would love to hear your opinions on the Game Awards, what you liked, what you didn't, what you're looking forward to. If there were things last night that were on your bucket list to be announced, and they were, love to hear that. But just remember that that's not the only thing that this award show is supposed to be about, and it has now overtaken half the show, which is pretty alarming. Regardless, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope you have an even better week right behind it. And we'll be back again next week with more of the latest and greatest in gaming news here on Cheesesteaks and Controllers. See you later, y'all.